Hi everyone, welcome to the lecture of Bioavailability and Bioequivalence. This lecture is based on the textbook Applied Biopharmaceutics and Pharmacokinetics. In this lecture, we have several learning objectives. After finish the lecture, make sure that you are able to define the rate limiting step and discuss how the rate limiting step relates to the bioavailability of an oral drug. Define bioavailability, BA, bioequivalence, BE, and drug product performance, and make sure that you can distinguish between BA and BE. Differentiate between drug absorption and bioavailability. Explain why some drugs have low bioavailability. Explain why first-pass effect as well as a chemical instability of a drug can result in low relative bioavailability. Describe biosimilarity, and interchangeable biological products. Describe factors influencing drug bioavailability and drug development. Next is to explain why absolute bioavailability value is not greater than 100%, but relative bioavailability can have a value more than 100%. Explain why bioequivalence may be considered as a measure of drug product performance. And last but not least, very important, know how to calculate absolute and relative bioavailability using plasma drug concentration and urine excretion data. I divided this lecture into two parts, part 1 and part 2. In part 1, it will be focused mostly in the conception of the bioavailability and bioequivalence. First of all, let's do some review about rate limiting step in oral absorption of a solid drug product. So for any oral drug, the drug need to be disintegrated first into the small particles from the solid dosage form. And then the small particle, the solid drug particles here, will be dissolved in the molecular level. And from the solution, the drug in solution form here, it will be absorbed through the permeation across the membrane by different mechanism of action, and from there the drug will be distributed to the body. So in the step 1 disintegration of drug, the drug here, the drug should be broken into small pieces. The step 2, a dissolution here. In this one, the drug will be dissolved. And if the drug is not dissolved or slowly dissolved, this step can be long before the drug can be absorbed. And if this step takes long as compared to other steps, this step we call the rate limiting step. And for this step, the rate limiting step usually happens for the drug is not soluble in water because it takes more time for the drug to dissolve into the body fluid. In the step 3, when the drug is absorbed through permeation across the intestinal mucosa cells, for this drug, this step, because the permeation through the cell membrane, and you know that the cell membrane is more lipophilic, so this step here is more favorable for the drug that is not soluble in water. So this step will be slow for the drug that is water soluble, because to cross through the cell membrane, the water soluble drug is very hydrophilic. It takes more time. So for water soluble drug, the rate limiting step will be the step of permeation. And in the step 4, when the drug is absorbed and distributed into the GI tract, so in this case, the other factor like stability, motility, and metabolism will influence to the fate of the drug. In general, the lowest step of the process of drug absorption is called the rate limiting step. And mostly, in general, there are two rate limiting steps in the dissolution and permeation. For the dissolution, if the drug is not water soluble, the rate limiting step will be in dissolution. For the drug that is water soluble, the rate limiting step will be in the permeation. Remember that for the local acting drugs, like for ophthalmic, pulmonary, and nasal products, the delivery of drug to the site of action is before reaching the systemic circulation. In biopharmaceutics, the drug is classified into four categories. BS1 with the drug like high solubility, high permeability. For this kind of drug, the dissolution or permeation both are favorable and easy. So almost there's no rate limiting step. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of drug has this in the BCS1. The drug belongs to the category of BCS2. The drug has a low solubility and high permeability. For this kind of drug, the rate limiting step will be in the dissolution. For the drug belong to BCS3, that is for the drug with high solubility and low permeability. This kind of drug, we have the rate limiting step in the permeation. And the last one is BCS4, has a low solubility and low permeability. For this kind of drug, both dissolution and permeation are the rate limiting step, and usually for those kinds of drug, the absorption through the oral administration is very poor. Now let's do some pre-preview about the physiologic transport mechanism for drug absorption from the GI tract. So a drug molecule can be transported by pinocytosis, active transport, and passive diffusion. Most of the drugs are absorbed by passive diffusion. This means it will go from the high concentration to low concentration. And for this absorption, for the passive desorption, duodenum areas is the a place that most of the drug will be absorbed because it provides a large surface area and blood supply. So now we go to the concept of bioavailability, BA. Bioavailability refers to the measurement of rate and extent of active drug that becomes available at the site of action. So for the bioavailability, there's some parameter that relates to is Cmax, Tmax, and AUC. The Tmax are the time that the drug reaches the maximum concentration, can provide information about the rate, that means how fast the drug is absorbed. The shorter Tmax, the faster rate absorbed for the drug. AUC, or area under the curve. This one provide information about the extent, that means how much the drug is absorbed. For majority of the oral drug, the site of action is within the systemic circulation, and the drug must be absorbed to achieve a pharmacological response. And most of the study of bioavailability are from drug concentration measured mainly in the plasma, because it's very difficult to measure the drug concentration at the site of action. There's two kinds of bioavailability. There's the absolute bioavailability and relative bioavailability. The absolute bioavailability, or shortly called just the bioavailability, this one is to compare one extravascular administered drug with the IV drug. And relative bioavailability is to compare two drug products formulation extravascular administered. Remember, in relative bioavailability, no drug is administered via the IV injection. The bioavailability data is helpful because it provides an estimate of the fraction of the drug absorbed from the formulation and provide information about the pharmacokinetics of the drug. And the bioavailability study, a drug product performance study, is used to define the effect of a change in the physical chemical properties of the drug substance, the formulation of the drug, and manufacture process of the drug product or dosage form. So in this picture, you can see this for this figure on top here. The red one is to represent the area under curve for a drug administered by intravenous injection. In the blue area here is the area under curve for the drug administered by oral. So any comparison of the drug oral or extravascular administration to compare with the area under the curve or AUC of the drug used by IV injection, we have the absolute bioavailability. And look at the figure here. These are two areas under the curves of the two drug do extravascular. In here, example, the oral administration, the red one and the blue one. Both of them are administered by mouth. And you can see they have different AUC or different area under the curve. And you compare the drug to a reference drug, then we have the relative bioavailability. Bioequivalence. Bioequivalence is different from bioavailability. Make sure that you distinguish both of them. Bioequivalence is a measure of comparability between two dosage forms of the same drug and is used to determine whether the two drug products can be used interchangeably. Remember, you should do the bioequivalence for the same drug but at different dosage form. For example, you do the bioequivalence of two ibuprofen products, but one in the tablets dosage form and another in capsule dosage form. The bioequivalence studies are used to compare the bioavailability of the same drug. That can be same salt or ester from various drug products. And a bioequivalence study is a specialized type of relative bioavailability study because they compare two drugs that not used for administration through the IV injection, but then they had the same drug, but they can be in different dosage form or they can be in different salt form. The drug product performance relates to the release of the drug substance from the drug product, leading to bioavailability of the drug substance. The bioequivalence study I consider as drug product performance study. What is the bioequivalence of two drugs and how can you compare? Look at the figure on the right. This is the pharmacokinetics profile of two drugs, drug A and drug B. You see drug A in the yellow-brown color and drug B in the blue color. You obtain the PK profiles and you obtain the AUC of the two drugs. Besides, you can obtain other parameters like Cmax, that means the maximum concentration of the drug, or Tmax, the time to reach the maximum concentration. In bioequivalence, in the study of bioequivalence of two drugs are considered bioequivalent when they are pharmaceutical equivalent or pharmaceutical alternative and the rate and extent of absorption do not show significant difference, or their following parameters are not statistically different in Cmax, Tmax, and AUC. So that means if you want to compare the bioequivalence of the two drugs, first they need to be pharmaceutical equivalent or they need to be pharmaceutical alternative. And then they don't have the difference value of Cmax, Tmax, and AUC. Now we go to review some terminology in pharmaceutics. First is generic product. Generic product is a medication created to be the same as an existing approved brand name drug in dosage form, safety, strength, route of administration, quality, and performance characteristic. And generic substitution. Generic substitution is the substituted drug product contains the same active ingredients or therapeutic moiety at the same salt or ester in the same dosage forms, but is made by a different manufacturer. For example, Motrin versus Advil. They have the same active ingredient of ibuprofen, same salt, same dosage form. Is a tablet, but they are made by different manufacturers. What is pharmaceutical equivalence? Pharmaceutical equivalence is drug products in identical dosage form. This means it should be the same dosage form that contain the same active ingredient, use the same route of administration, are identical in strength and concentration, but differ in characteristics such as shape, release mechanism, packaging, excipients, expiration time, etc. For example, you have aspirin tablets, USB of particular strength, a different strength, then you can have the pharmaceutical equivalence. Pharmaceutical substitution is the process of dispensing pharmaceutical alternative or the prescribed drug products For example, ampicillin suspension is dispensed in place of ampicillin capsules. So in short, if the drug products are pharmaceutically equivalent and bioequivalent, then the clinical efficacy and the safety profile of these drug products are assumed to be similar and may be substituted for each other. We should learn something quickly about bioavailability, some terminology about generic drug product, pharmaceutical alternative, pharmaceutical equivalent, etc. Now we go to another case of advanced products. It's a biological products. Then we have different terminology. We don't have the terminology of bioavailability, something like that, but we have biosimilar. So biosimilar is obtained for biologic products or biotechnology derived product. This biologic or biotechnology derived drug is the drug derived from living sources such as humans, animals, and microorganisms. For example, insulin and growth hormone is a well characterized biologic product. Or the biologic products can be a complex mixture and usually it's not easily identified or characterized. And in biologic products terminology, we have another terminology is a reference product. Reference product is the single biological product and already approved by the FDA. And remember, when we would say the word reference product is still like biological product. A biosimilar is a biological product that is highly similar to and has no clinically meaningful difference from an existing FDA-approved reference product. So, reference product is the brand product. It's already approved. Brand biological product is been approved by the FDA. And biosimilar product is still biological product. It happened after the reference products is released, and the biosimilar should have like similar about clinical and nothing difference about clinical effects to compare with the existing FDA approval reference product. Some example of biosimilar product can be like Humira, Helio. Humira is the brand name for adalimumab. It's a kind of biologic product approved by the FDA in 2002. And then about 18 years later, the FDA approved the biosimilar of Humira called Helio. In the table here, I have some example of biosimilar drug products and some reference products of biological products. How about biosimilarity versus interchangeability? An interchangeable product is a biosimilar product that meets additional requirements outlined by the Biologics Price Competition and Innovation Act. Remember, the interchangeable biological drug products are still biological products, and that are interchangeable with a reference biological product if first it meets the criteria for being biosimilar. Second, it can be expected to produce the same clinical result as the reference product in any given patient, and the risk in terms of safety or diminished efficacy in alternating or switching between use of biological product and reference product is not greater than the risk of using the reference product without such alteration or switch. Remember, an interchangeable product may be substituted for the reference product without the involvement of the prescriber. All right, now we go back to bioavailability and to review some factors that influencing bioavailability and impact on drug development. There's a many factor can influence the drug bioavailability. That can be physical, chemical properties of the drug and formulation. For example, the permeation property, solubility of properties of the drug can influence different steps, and it can influence absorption, so that it can influence the drug bioavailability. Drug stability and pH, pre-systemic and first pass metabolism, prodrug, food effects, drug-drug interaction, efflux transporter, age, and disease states are also other major factors that can influence the bioavailability of the drug. Now we look at the first factor is about physical chemical properties of the drug and formulation. As I mentioned above, the solubility of drug is very important about physical chemical property. If the drug has a low solubility in water, and the rate limiting step will be the dissolution. And for those drugs have low solubility, it takes more time, and percentage of drug in this zone is very low. It will lead to the low bioavailability. And for those kinds of drug, the solubility need to be improved if you want to improve the drug bioavailability. The next in the physical chemical properties is the dissolution rate of the drug product. If the dissolution rate is low, and this case for sure the drug will have low bioavailability because the drug concentration is not enough to be absorbed. The next is the particle size and surface area is also a critical factor that determines the bioavailability. The smaller particle size, the larger surface area, and then it can help to increase the bioavailability of the drug. Other factors just such as structural forms like polymorphism, solvase complex, etc., can influence the drug bioavailability and can make the drug have very low bioavailability. Other drug products in the formulation, you have high ratio of excipients to the API also influence the bioavailability. And adding of certain excipient can change the drug bioavailability because it can increase or have to change the solubility of the drug, such as when you add in the excipient, when you make tablets, you have lubricant, for example, magnesium stearate. These hydrophobic ingredient will decrease the drug dissolution, so it can reduce the bioavailability of the drug. To solve the problems, another ingredient can be added like the surfactant, for example, sodium lauryl sulfate. Adding sodium lauryl sulfate can help to solve the problem or improve the drug dissolution, and that can help to improve the bioavailability. The factor of drug stability and pH. Remember, if drug has a poor stability, they have a short half-life and they have very low bioavailability. The active pharmaceutical ingredient or API, if it is unstable in specific portion of the GI tract, for this case, it will require special coatings for the formulation to ensure that the drugs is not sufficient amount of drug is absorbed. For example, acid label drugs have low bioavailability because they are degraded at low pH in the stomach. So in this case, the drug can be improved by coating with enteric coated ingredients. And in this case, the drug won't be degraded in the low pH of the stomach, and it can escape the degradation of the acidic fluid in the stomach. About the effects of pre-systemic and first-pass metabolism. If the drug has a first-pass metabolism or first-pass effect or high metabolism, the drug will have very low bioavailability. So one of example is the propranolol. For this kind of drug, the oral administration seems a problem because the bioavailability is very low, and then you have to use a large dose. To solve the problems for many kinds of drug with the first pass effects, prodrug can be used instead of the original drug. If a prodrug is used, it can be metabolized, then the prodrug is metabolized but not the drug. And when it's metabolized, the prodrug will release the drug, and that's help to improve the bioavailability. One of the good example is acyclovir and valacyclovir. So for this case of antiviral drug. So for acyclovir, it has to be used like 5 times daily with the 800 milligram orally 5 times daily. So that means the dose they're using for every day is a 4 gram. With valacyclovir is a prodrug of acyclovir. It's used like 1000 milligram for 3 times a day, or the dose within a day is a 3 grams. So it's 1 gram less than the acyclovir. Acyclovir is a drug has high metabolism. Look at the graph here. You can see that the red one is acyclovir. After using for like 5 times daily, this drug has a very low bioavailability because the drug has a high metabolism. If the prodrug of S is valacyclovir is used, you see what happened in the blue here. Because valacyclovir here, this is the structure of valacyclovir. It has like some combination of acyclovir, and it has some other functional group linked by the ester link. So as valacyclovir is metabolized and it will release the acyclovir. So thanks to that prodrug, if like valacyclovir is used, the amount of acyclovir or percentage of acyclovir appear in the blood is higher than original drug. So in this case, you can see the AUC if valacyclovir is used, and you see the AUC of acyclovir is much higher than the acyclovir. Other factor is very common is a food drug interaction or drug-drug interaction, and the food can decrease or increase the bioavailability, depends on the types of food, depends on the type of drug. And if like there's a clinical significance about the drug food interaction, there's need a labeling on instruction how to take it appropriately. For example, the drug need to be taken at the empty stomach or only with food, etc. Of the effects of food drug interaction, I give you some good example of the food can reduce or increase the bioavailability. For reducing bioavailability, for example, the adenosine or Vidax, for this kind of drug, the food can prolong gastric emptying. So in this case, if the food prolong gastric emptying, it can increase the time that drug will be in contact with low pH environment and reduce the Cmax and AUC. So for this kind of drug, like recommend is to be taken on empty stomach for this kind of drug. Example of food increasing bioavailability with some kinds of drug like isotretinoin or Accutane. For this kind of drug, food can double AUC. If the presence of the food, it can double AUC of the drug because this drug is very like fast soluble. If the food have like good content of fat, it can increase the absorption, increase the AUC of isotretinoin to compare with the fast condition. So to increase the bioavailability of the drug, so this one is also like always like recommended to be taken with meal. Another drug is the efavirenz or sativa. If the meal or the food have high fat, high calorie, again it's similar to isotretinoin. The food can increase the AUC and Cmax, and remember for this case it can increase the bioavailability, but with the presence of like existed amount of drug expected, it can increase the side effects. For those kinds of drug, usually the drug is recommended to be taken on empty stomach to avoid a food drug interaction. It's very good example of the food drug interaction is the grapefruit. When the drug is taken with the grapefruit is a CYP3A4 inhibitor. So grapefruits can inhibit the activity of enzyme, and from there is reduce the drug metabolism of any substrate for the CYP3A4, so it can increase the drug bioavailability. In part 2 of this lecture, we will learn about the calculation of absolute bioavailability and relative bioavailability. Remember, bioavailability or absolute bioavailability is the compare of the bioavailability of active drug in systemic circulation following extravascular administration with the bioavailability of the same drug following intravenous administration. So that means you compare the bioavailability of any drug like oral, transdermal, or injection intramuscular, subcutaneous, etc., but not IV injection, to the bioavailability of the drug that's administered by IV injection. Any drug administered through the IV injection is considered to have 100% of drug absorbed, or the bioavailability should be 100%. Any extravascular administration like inhaled, intramuscular, oral, rectal, subcutaneous, sublingual, etc. Those one can have the bioavailability smaller than 100% to compare with the IV administration. So from this curve here, example of the green one, area under the curve for the green one is a drug administered by IV injection, and the area under the curve, or AUC, of the black one here is to represent for the drug administered extravascularly, or for example by oral administration. You can see that the AUC here should be smaller, or maximum should be equal, but it should be smaller than AUC to IV administration. To calculate the bioavailability of the drug, we can use different data. That can be the AUC from the plasma drug concentration profile, or that can be the urine drug excretion data. To calculate the bioavailability using the urine drug excretion data, the drug must be mostly excreted through the kidney, and we use the cumulative amount of drug excreted in the urine to calculate the bioavailability of the drug. First, to calculate the absolute bioavailability of a drug, if we use the AUC, or the area under the curve, so the bioavailability is calculated by using the comparison of the AUC of extravascular administration. And I give example here, for example, the oral AUC of the oral drug divided by the AUC of the IV drug. That means the drug is administered by IV injection. If the dose different, then you need to time to the inversion dose, so the dose of IV drug divided by the dose of the oral drug. So for this formulation, the result you get here is a fraction, and the fraction maximum is 1, and the fraction has a value from 0 to 1. If you want to calculate percentage of absolute bioavailability, you will use the AUC of the extravascular administration drug, or I give example the oral drug, divided by AUC of IV drug times to the dose of IV drug divided by the dose of oral drug, and time to 100. For this equation, when you use this equation, the value of F will be a percentage. In case you use the cumulative urine drug excretion, in this case you will use the cumulative excretion of drug in the urine for the drug oral or extravascular administration divided by the cumulative drug excretion of the IV. And again, you need to standardize the dose by time the dose of the IV divided by the dose of oral. Remember, if the dose are different, you need to standardize by multiply to this factor. If the dose of IV oral are similar, so the division here is a 1, so you can ignore this. And again, the F can calculate either in fraction or percentage. If the percentage, you use the same formula for fraction but time to 100. Remember, the value of absolute bioavailability is 0 to 1 or 0% to 100%, and it's never below 0 or never higher than 1 or higher than 100%. The next is about relative bioavailability. Relative bioavailability compares the bioavailability of active drug in systemic circulation of a designated formulation, such general we call the test formulation, with the bioavailability of the same drug administered in a reference formulation, general refer as reference formulation. So for this one, you see in the figure here, there's a different kinds of the same drug but different dosage form. So they have suppository, a tablet, suspension, a solution. So in this one, you see that as you know that the solution always has a higher absorb and faster absorb because the drug's already in the dissolution form. So for this one, it's a cap solution. It has the highest AUC, or it can have highest bioavailability. Usually the oral solution, if you compare with many kinds of dosage form, the oral solutions always is used as a reference formulation because it's to compare with capsule and oral tablets, because the oral solutions is usually has a highest bioavailability or highest absorption or highest AUC. To calculate the relative bioavailability, so remember that you need to know which one is numerator, which one is denominator. In the formula here, we have drug A and drug B, and drug B is a reference formula, and drug A is a testing formula. Drug B is a reference formula. That means the formula already existing and have good bioavailability, and drug A is a testing some drug A. You want to compare the bioavailability of drug A to drug B. In this case, the AUC of drug A will be divided by AUC of drug B times to the dose of drug B divided by the dose of drug A. And this equation will give you the value of fraction. If you want to have percentage, a value of F using this equation, then you times to 100. In case you use the cumulative urine excretion amount of drug, you will use the cumulative amount of drug excreted in the urine of drug A. Drug A is testing, the one you want to compare, divided by the cumulative excreted amount of drug in the urine of drug B, and drug B is a reference drug. And then after divided in the, you need to standardize if they have different dose B, drug B divided by dose drug A. And if you want to have percentage value, then you times to 100. So remember that you don't confuse between the numerator and denominator, whether A will be above or B above. Make sure that the drug is considered reference formulation. That's the drug like you want to compare with this drug. This always under, like drug B is reference formulation, will be under. And the testing formulation, that means you want to compare, like you want to see whether A is better than B or not, is will be in here, this test formulation. For relative bioavailability, the F value can be different. It can be 0 to more than 1. 0 does mean in case like there's no, like the drug has no difference in bioavailability. But it can be more than 1 if the test formulation has better bioavailability than reference formulation. In this case, the relative bioavailability can be more than 1. Remember, for relative bioavailability value, it can be from 0 to more than 1, or from 0% to more than 100%. Now we do a calculation for a specific question of example. In this question, you are provided with a set of data. You have 3 different kinds of drug product: oral tablet, oral solution, IV bolus injection, or intravenous injection. And for each drug products, the drug is administered like in different dose, like 200 milligram or 50 milligram. And the AUC of 10 for each kind of drug products, you have the value of 89.5, 86.1, 37.8 microgram time hour per milliliter. And this is standard deviation of the AUC. And this AUC here is the average value. So from this table of data set here, you are asked to do the calculation of the bioavailability of the drug from the tablet. So in this case here, you are asked to do for the tablet. And calculate the relative bioavailability of the drug from the tablet compared to the oral solution. So in this one, you are asked to do two things: calculate the absolute bioavailability and calculate the relative bioavailability. Remember when we talk about the bioavailability in short or absolute bioavailability of the tablets, that means you will compare the tablet if it's absolute or just shortly bioavailability, then you compare this one, if that's tablet, you compare that one with IV injection. The second is a relative bioavailability of the drug from the tablet to compare with the oral solution. In this case, remember you compare the tablet with the oral solution. The oral solution will be the reference drug, and the oral tablets will be the statin drug. So remember about this. And in this here, you have a value of AUC of different AUC, and you can use the AUC to calculate. Now we go to the solution. The first question: calculate the bioavailability of the drug from the tablet. So we know that the equation to calculate a bioavailability is F equal to, in here I want to calculate the F percentage, will be equal to the AUC of the tablet divided by AUC of the IV. Remember, this is absolute bioavailability. You need to divide it to the AUC of the IV here. Then you need to standardize dose. So in this case, the dose of the IV divided by the dose of the tablet. Then I have percentage of bioavailability will be equal to AUC tablet. I have the value here, 89.5, divided by AUC of the IV. I have here 37.8 times the dose of IV. The dose of IV I have here is a 50 milligram, divided by the dose of the tablet is here 200 milligram. Remember that because if I calculate to percentage, I need to time 200 here. If I don't multiply with 100, the value of F, I will have a fraction, and a fraction from 0 to 1. And if I calculate percentage, it will be from 0% to 100%. So from this equation, from this arrangement, then you will calculate F value. So in this case here, percentage of bioavailability will be equal to 0.59 times 100, or equal to 59%. The next question is to calculate the relative bioavailability of the drug from the tablet compared to the oral solution. So you have the F relative equal to AUC of the tablets divided by AUC of the solution. Because you compare tablet to solution, solution is reference and tablet is testing. Then you time to dose of the solution divided by the dose of the tablets. And this equation will give you the value of fraction. And if you want to have percentage, then you need to time 200 for the percentage. So from here, I have the F relative will be equal to AUC tablets. AUC tablets is here, 89 0.5 divided by AUC solution 86.1. And 2 times the dose solution divided by the dose of tablet. You see they have the same dose, so it can be crossed out and I don't need to calculate here. So if I calculate F fraction, then the relative of bioavailability will be 1.04. And if a 1%, then times to 100%, then I have 104% for the value of relative bioavailability of the drug. Next question, to practice, we have the same table. This time I change the question a little bit. You are asked to calculate the bioavailability of the drug from the solution. So when we say bioavailability or absolute bioavailability, we have the F is equal to AUC of the drug in the solution divided by AUC of the drug is an IV. And also you need to multiply with the standardized of the dose. If the solution over IV, remember there's a rule of thumb, the dose will be inverse. That means the dose of IV divided by the dose of solution. And this equation is a fraction. If you want to multiply to 100, then you can have the percentage of F. So in this case, so you have AUC of solution. The AUC solution 86.1 divided by AUC of IV 37.8. You need to multiply with the dosing factor because they have different dosing. The dose of the IV is 50 milligram, and the dose of the solution is 200 milligram. So then from this one, you will have the F value is 0.569, or if you calculate to percentage, is equal to 56.9%. So for the solution after the oral, 56.9% of drug is appear in the circulation, or is appear in the plasma. And this value of F here is pretty low. The next question, calculate the relative bioavailability of the drug from the oral solution compared to the oral tablet. This is just a practice question because usually in practice the solution always consider reference and the other consider testing, but in here I just want you to practice, and I put the oral solution is a testing and the oral tablets is a reference. So when you calculate, make sure that you read the question carefully and to determine correctly which one is a reference and which one is testing. Because if you determine wrongly, then the equation you put wrong, then you have the wrong answer. Alright, so to calculate the relative bioavailability, F relative will be equal to the AUC, because in this case I consider solution a testing, so I put solution here, and I compare with the tablet, and in this case I consider tablet as a reference, so I put the AUC of tablet, and time to the dose, inversion of this one, so dose of tablet divided by the dose of solution. And this equation, with this equation, the value you have is a fraction. So AUC of solution, I have 86.1. AUC of the tablet, I have here 89.5. And time to the dose of tablets. The dose of tablets here, 200. And the dose of solution, the same, 200. So the same dose can be crossed out. So from here, I have the value of F relative of is 0.962 or equal to 96.2%. So for this drug, when we compare the solution and tablets, the value of F relative 96.2 is less than 100, 96.2% is less than 100%. So it seems like the drug solution has slightly like bioavailability smaller than the bioavailability of the tablet, because the value is less than 100%. So that means the solution has a smaller bioavailability to compare with the bioavailability of the tablet. Alright, so the next question is a little bit more complicated. So look at the question. A patient is currently receiving an antibiotic 400 milligram IV intravenous injection every 12 hours. The pharmacist recommends a conversion to oral therapy in preparation for hospital discharge. The antibiotic tablets are available in 250, 500, and 750 milligram strengths. If the bioavailability of the antibiotic is 70%, which of the following is the closest equivalent oral dose? So you have five different choice. 250 milligram oral, all of them oral, once daily. 250 milligram oral, 2 times daily. 500 milligram oral, 2 times daily. 700 milligram oral, 2 times daily. 200 milligram, this is a pill, every 8 hours. So how to solve this problem? First, because you see they have different dose and different frequency, so to make it simplify, you need to put them in like the dose for per day, so to standardize it. So this one, 250 milligram oral once daily, this means it's just 250 milligram a day. 200 milligram oral 2 times BID, that means 2 times a dose, or it will be equal to daily, it will be 250 milligram times 2 equal to 500 milligram per day. This one is 200 milligram per day, and this one is 1,000 milligram per day, because 500 milligram 2 times a day, and this one 700 milligram 2 times a day, then you have 1,500 milligram per day. And this one 250 milligram every 8 hours or 3 times a day, so you will have 750 milligram per day. So when you put them together, now we look at the information you are provided. So for this one, the drug has a bioavailability is 70%, and receiving for the IV, receiving 400 milligram IV 2 times a day. So that means for the IV, the dose for the IV equal to 400 milligram 2 times a day, or 80 milligram a day. So you need to find the equivalent dosing from the oral here. Which one is closest to have the dose 800 milligram a day, so it can be equivalent to the IV. Remember, because this oral drug and the bioavailability is 70%, so you need to count for that. So that means for the drug, if it's administered like this, it's not 100% of drug will go to the blood, only 70% of this. Now look at this one. The dose IV 800 milligram per day. This one 250 milligram a day. So if you take like, because the drug is taken 250 milligram, but the bioavailability only 70%. So that means in practice, how much the drug or bioavailability based on this one, how much of the drug really appear in the blood? That should be 250 milligram times 70% time to bioavailability. So 250 times is only 175 milligram a day for choice A. Choice B, you have 500 milligram a day because bioavailability here you need to account for that. So 500 milligram is taken and only 70% of bioavailability. So the dose will be 350 milligram per day. And if 1,000 milligram per day, so that means 1,000 milligram times the bioavailability. So you have 700 milligram per day. And this one 1,500 per day with the bioavailability 70%. We have 1,500 milligram times 7%. This one is equal to 1,050 milligram per day. And the last one, this one is 750 milligram. So in this case, if 750 milligram, but because only 70% is absorbed up here in the blood, so 750 times 70%, you have 525 milligram per day. Now you compare with the IV dose 800 milligram. So apparently this 700 milligram is the closest. So in this case you will select C. Answer C is the closest equivalent oral dose for this case. So that means if the drug has the dose 400 milligram IV every 12 hours, to convert into the oral, the patient can take 500 milligram orally 2 times a day. Next practice question. A patient is currently receiving an antibiotic 300 milligram IV every 12 hours. The pharmacy recommends a conversion to oral therapy in preparation for hospital discharge. The antibiotic tablets are available in 100, 250, and 500 milligram strengths. If the bioavailability of the antibiotic is 80%, what can be the closest equivalent oral dose for the oral 2 times a day? So similar to previous question, so when you try to calculate to convert the equivalent dose from oral to the IV, usually you need to convert into like standardized per day. So here 300 milligram every 12 hours. So the IV dose you have 300 milligram times 2 or 600 milligram per day. So this is for the IV dose. Now you need to calculate the oral dose, but 2 times a day here. What the dose you can recommend to have like similar to the 600 milligram per day. So the target we have 600 milligram per day. Now we calculate. And the available of the dose 100, 250, and 500 milligram strength. So in this case, you see like, so you want a dose like 600 milligram per day, and because it's IV, that means 100% of drug in the blood. So you have the target. You have the target for oral is close to 600 milligram per day. So that's the target. And because remember the drug has 80%, so in this case you need to count for 80%. So in this case you see 80%, that means if you have 100 milligram of dose, only 80 milligram of drug appear in the blood. Now you want 600 milligram of the drug in the blood. Then you calculate proportional how many milligram of dose you should have. if I cause here x, then x will be equal to 100 here times 600 and divided by 80. So x will be equal to 750 milligram per day. So that means if you use an oral, you should take around 750 milligram per day so that you will get 100 milligram of drug in the blood. Because the question asks you oral 2 times a day and available of the strength 100, 250, 500 milligram. So 2 times a day. So in this case, you can have like several possibility. Okay, 750 milligram per day. And if 2 times per day, it can be, ideally it would be 350 milligram per dose and 2 times a day. But because you don't have 350 milligram available strength, so you cannot do that. So you can do another way. You have 100 milligram, 250 milligram, and 500 milligram. In this case, you can take like one dose 250 milligram, and then another dose is 500 milligram. Then you have 700 milligram. However, this one potential risky. Why? Because you have different dose, 250 and 500, and the patient can be confused. They don't remember when to take 250 or whether they take 250 or whether they take 500 milligram, and this like very like unbalanced dose like that is not good for the dosing. So this is not a good choice. So another choice, if you take 500 milligram 2 times a day, then you have 1000 milligram. So it will be more than 750 milligram. If you take 250 milligram 2 times per day, then you have 500 milligram, and it's below 750 milligram. So how about 100 milligram? For 100 milligram, you can do another possibility like 4 tablets. If you take 4 tablets and then time 2 times a day, 4 tablets, you have 400 milligram, and 2 times a day is about 800 milligram. So in this case, this one seems the closest equivalent dose technically based on the calculation for this case. Next question. The AUC of an IV drug is a 600 milligram time hour per liter. When the same dose is given orally, the AUC is 240 milligram time hour per liter. What is the drug's oral bioavailability? You have different choice, 2.5%, 4%, etc. So you see you have a IV drug and then another oral. And when you calculate or compare the bioavailability of oral to the IV drug, you will have the absolute bioavailability. And the absolute F should be within 0% to 100%. It cannot be more than 100%. So from this concept, you can exclude the choice A easily. So now you have the 4 choice A, B, C, or D. So to answer the question, you just need to calculate the F. And F, remember, F equal to AUC of the oral divided by AUC of IV times dose of IV divided by dose of oral. So because the drug had the same dose, so you can ignore this one. So now F will be AUC of oral divided by AUC of IV. So AUC of oral is 240. They have the same unit, so I don't need to write a unit here. and AUC at IV is 600. So then I have F is equal to 0.4 or 40%. So the correct answer is C. Just like some clinical meaning for this drug, the F's are pretty low, very low, only 40%. Next question. The AUC of an IV drug is 470 milligram time hour per liter. When a double dose is given orally, the AUC is 450 milligram time hour per liter. What is the drug's oral bioavailability? So for this question, again, you have IV drug and you have oral drug. So when you are asked about the drug oral bioavailability, that's E. You compare oral and IV, that's an absolute F. And absolute F is always equal to AUC of oral divided by AUC of IV times dose of IV divided by dose of oral. That's equation. So to calculate F, you have F will be equal to AUC oral. You know, AUC of oral is of 450. Because they have the same unit here, so I don't write the unit here for sure. Divided by AUC of IV is of 470. Remember, the dose is different, so make sure that you need to count for this factor. And because the dose of the oral is more than 2 times more than the dose of the IV, so that's mean like 2 times of dose is 1 dose, and dose will be 2 dose. You don't have the exact number of the dose, but you still can calculate from here because the dose of IV the dose of oral double the dose. This IV dose, if I have 1 dose, the dose of the oral 2 times of this dose. So you still can calculate this, even though you don't know exact amount of dose, you still can do that. So from this calculation, you have F is equal to 0.478 or equal to 47.8% or around 48% of the drug bioavailability if taken orally. Next question. You have a data set from the table here. You have the time after dose, different time, and you have different kinds of dosage form: IV solution, oral tablet, oral capsule, and then you have different dose here. And for every time after dose, you have also different plasma drug concentration, and then the AUC of each type dosage form. You have AUC value here, and the patient is 70 kilogram. First question: which drug product in the table would be preferred as a reference standard for the determination of relative bioavailability, and why? So from here, if you talk about relative bioavailability, that means you compare the bioavailability of certain drug extravascular and you exclude the IV. So from here, when you mention about relative, that means you mention about those 3 dosage form: oral solution, oral tablet, and oral capsule. And you see with the same dose, they have the same dose, 10 milligram per kilogram. So from that, just looking at the AUC, because they administer the same dose, looking at the AUC, you can tell which drug has the best bioavailability based on the value of AUC. Higher AUC, higher bioavailability. So for the 3 dosage form here, the oral solution has the highest AUC, or it can yield highest bioavailability. So for this one, because it's the best one and other drug can compare with this, so we can select oral solution is the reference standard because it had the highest AUC, so it can have highest bioavailability. So this one we see for oral solution. B. From which oral drug product is the drug absorbed more rapidly? So I give a hint here, look at the Tmax. So whether the drug absorbs rapidly or not, you look at the rate. That means the time that the drug receives max very short. And you look at here, for the, remember when we're talking about oral drug, we have three formula here. Look at here. So which one has a Tmax and which one is Cmax? Based on the data, the C for the oral solution, the Cmax is for the oral solution, the Cmax is here. For the highest concentration is a Cmax. Oral tablets, the highest concentration is here. So this Cmax is here. For oral capsule, the highest concentration is here. Cmax is here. So from which oral drug product, to answer this question, which one is absorbed more rapidly? And apparently from this one you can see the drug from oral solution is absorbed the fastest, and oral capsule can be pretty similar, like can absorb fastest. Although at the same dose, but the amount of drug here absorbed is less. The Cmax here less than the Cmax in here, because for maybe certain reason we don't know yet, but if you can predict, then because it depends on disintegration, dissolution, etc. So you see, even though they have lower concentration in here, but the Cmax still reach early at a time like 0.5 after the dose. The next question. What is the absolute bioavailability of the drug from the oral solution? Okay, we ask oral solution here. When we talk about absolute, that means we compare the AUC of the oral solution to the AUC the IV. So we know that the F, right? If you have oral solution, FAUC, oral solution divided by AUC of IV times dose of IV divided by dose of the oral solution. So from that equation, you will have F will be equal to AUC of the oral solution 145 divided by AUC of the IV is 29. Then you need to standardize with the dose. The dose IV 2 milligram per kilogram, and the dose of the solution is a 10 milligram per kilogram. So from this here, you have the F. The F is equal to 1 or 100%. So in this question, the absolute bioavailability of the drug from oral solution is 100%. So that means all of drug is absorbed totally to the blood. Question D. What is the relative bioavailability of the drug from the oral tablet compared to the reference standard? So in the previous question, we select the oral solution is the reference standard. So now we compare the oral tablet to the oral solution. And we know that F relative, if we want to compare the tablet to the capsule, we will have AUC of the tablet. That's the testing you want to know. And the AUC of reference, and the AUC of reference is the oral solution. Time to dose of oral solution divided by the dose of tablet. Then you will have F relative is equal to AUC of the tablets is 116 divided by AUC of solution is 145. Time to dose. The dose, both time had the same dose, 10, 10, so you can cross out. So finally, the F relative is 0.8 or 80%. So to compare with the oral solution, the oral tablet has a relative bioavailability of 80%, because when the tablets are compared to solution, the bioavailability is 80% or smaller than 100%. So that means the bioavailability of the oral tablet is smaller than the bioavailability of the solution. Question: the minimum effective concentration of the drug in plasma is 2 microgram per milliliter. MTC is 5 microgram per mil. A. What is approximate onset time of this drug? B. What is the duration of activity of this drug? C. What's the Tmax? And D. What's the Cmax? So from the data set, we have data like in the graph here. Look at the graph here, and you are provided with the data and the graph like this. And you know that for this drug, the MEC, or minimum effective concentration, is 2 microgram per milliliter. So it's here. This one is a MEC, 2 microgram per mil. And the MTC is a 5 microgram per mil, is above here, 5 microgram per mil. So what is approximate onset time of this drug? The onset time of this drug is the time that the drug first reached the MEC. So that's the onset time. So from here, you can determine the onset time of action, or the time for the drug first to reach the MEC. So the onset time, you will see 2 is here. So anytime that reach this one is the onset time of the drug. And from here it seems like of course if you can calculate it, you can have exact number. For this one is some time like it's less than 5 hours, then you have onset time action. B. What is the duration of activity of this drug? The duration is the time between the drug when it reached the MEC to the last time the drug reached MEC. So the duration of activity is the periods of time between this one and this one is the duration of activity of this drug. What is the Tmax? Tmax is the time that the drug reaches maximum concentration. And from here you have the Cmax is here. So the Tmax is the time that this drug reached the Cmax, that you have Tmax. Question: you have a data set in the table is below. So you have different kind of drug product: IV solution, oral tablet, oral capsule, and with different dose. This time you don't have AUC in the blood, you have cumulative urinary drug excretion, or DU here. So you have different value. What's the absolute bioavailability of the drug from the tablets? So for this one, if you use a cumulative urinary drug excretion, you have the equation absolute here. Okay, you have more space, I will write here. F absolute will be equal to the DU, because you calculate the tablet of the tablets, divided by DU of the IV. Remember, IV and tablet, you compare the absolute, so you can compare oral tablet and the IV, and time to the dose of IV divided by dose of the tablet. So you have the DU tablet here, 340. We have the same unit, so I don't write a unit here. The DU of IV, DU IV is 20. And the dose The dose for the IV is 0.2 milligram per kilogram, and the dose for the tablets is a 4 milligram per kilogram, because they are in the same unit, so I don't write down here. I don't have space to write like this. So then finally, for this equation, for this calculation, I have F is equal to 0.85 or 85%. B. What is the relative bioavailability of the capsule compared to the oral solution? So in this case, because capsule compared to oral solution, so oral solution will be the reference standard, and the capsule will be the testing. So to calculate F relative will be equal to the du of, because the capsule is testing, it will be above the capsule, divided by du. The reference will be in here, that oral solution, time to the dose of oral solution divided by the dose of capsule. Then you have the cumulative urinary of drug excretion for the capsule. For the capsule, you have here 360 divided by the cumulative urinary drug excretion of the oral solution is 380, because they have the same unit, so I don't write out. And the time to the dose of oral solution is 4, and the dose of capsule the same as a 4, so you can cross out. So F relative here you have 0.95 or 95%. Because the relative F is less than 100%, about 95%, is slightly, the capsule has slightly like smaller bioavailability to compare with the oral solution. Question. Following IV administration, 75% of the drug is recovered from the urine after 24 hours as the parent compound. Following a simple oral dose, 48% of the drug is recovered from the urine after 24 hours as the parent compound. What is the fraction of the drug which is absorbed systematically from an oral dose after 24 hours? So in this case, you see what information you have. Here, IV administration. Following IV administration, 75% of the drug is recovered from the urine. Remember, here that's a then you think about cumulative urinary extraction of drug. 75% of drug is recovered as a parent compound. So okay, I can make a summary here. IV 75% urine recover. That means 75% of the parent drug is excreted in the urine. You can see from the urine. But if you have oral, you have 48% of drug in the urine of the parent compound. So the question here is, what's the fraction of the drug which is absorbed systematically? So from the data here, you don't have any AUC. Technically, you don't know the absorb, but you look at this data, it can indirectly help you to predict the drug absorbed. So whenever you have like urine like this, you will remember that it's an IV, the PO. It seems like you compare absolute bioavailability of the oral to compare with the IV. Now we go back to the equation, calculate the absolute bioavailability using the cumulative urinary drug excretion. So F will be the cumulative urinary drug excretion of the oral. Right? You have the drug of the oral first, du of oral divided by du of the IV. Then you time to dose of the IV divided the dose of oral. So in here, look at the dose. It's a different dose. So following IV administration, following a single oral dose. Okay, what is the fraction of the drug? So no dose is mentioned here, and we assume that they have the same dose. If they have the same dose, in this case, the F's, you can cross out the dose, and then you will focus on the cumulative urinary drug excretion. So in this here, you don't have exact value of cumulative urinary drug excretion, like how many milligram or something like that. However, you have percentage recover. You can use the equation similar to calculate. Then, instead of using the amount, you can use the percentage. In here, for the oral, du of the oral is a 48% of the parent compound, and du IV is 75% of the oral compound. You still can calculate the F using this equation, and the F will be 0.64 or 64%. So from this indirect data, you still can calculate and predict the fraction of the drug is absorbed systemically from an oral dose after 24 hours is 0.64 or 64% of drug orally is absorbed after 24 hours. Alright, so we just learned some concepts and do some practice on basic calculation for bioavailability. For the part 2 calculation, this is I give you some brief summary. Make sure that this is a take-home message you need to remember, and you need to memorize the equation to calculate. For the equation, it's hard to memorize, but the more practice you do, the more like remember or memorization you can have for the equation for calculation. So in summary, for the part 2 of calculation of bioavailability, remember absolute bioavailability, or briefly they say bioavailability, is the compare of extravascular to the IV, and the value maximum is 1 or 100%. Remember, 0 to 1 or 0% to 100% is never have the value more than 100%. For the relative bioavailability, that's to compare two extravascular products and no IV in relative bioavailability. The F values may be more than 100% or more than 1. Bioequivalence may be considered as a measure of drug product performance. Calculation of F can be based on the plasma, AUC, or urine data. So remember, you need to standardize the dose in case they have different dose. For absolute bioavailability, if you AUC of any like oral or any case of extravascular divided by IV, AUC IV, and time to the dose of IV divided by dose of any extravascular like oral or something. And if you want the percentage, then you time to 100. And in case like you compare any relative bioavailability, for example, you compare the tablets, bioavailability of the tablet to the bioavailability of reference, AUC of tablets divided by UC reference times the dose of reference divided by the dose of tablet. And remember, so when you calculate the absolute bioavailability, the AUC of IV product should be denominator. But when you calculate the relative bioavailability, the AUC of the reference product should be denominator. That's something you need to remember. Alright, so that's all for lecture today. Thank you for your attention.